Good morning and greetings, everybody. How are you today? This is from Natural News by Mike Adams. Came out on the 22nd. The big lie upon which all government is founded. Every government in the world today is founded on a big lie that you're about to see explained below. This is true regardless of party affiliation, nationality, or era in which the government operates. All governments, past, present, and future, are founded on this big lie, without exception. So what is the big lie? It's the idea that those who are in power will represent the interests of others who have no power. Kind of like you and me. Well, at least me. I know I don't have any power. Anywho, the big lie fantasizes that selfish, power-seeking, egotistic human beings are magically transmuted into humble, compassionate, ethical representatives the minute they win the election. We are to believe that all their hunger for power instantly vanishes at the moment they win, replaced by godlike universal love for all the people, even at the expense of their own careers or personal wealth accumulation. Somehow, we are led to believe those who win elections are serving their nation, not leveraging power for their own selfish aims. Politicians even use this language themselves, claiming they are running for office in hopes of serving their country, but never serving their own insatiable appetite for power. Bureaucrats, as a rule of thumb, don't deserve their nations. They exploit national power to serve their own self-interests. Those who seek power almost always covet it for themselves. The very idea that people in power can be representatives of those who are powerless is absurd on its face. Has any religion, race, nationality, or philosophical belief ever been discovered on this planet that describes a group of people who do not make decisions in their own self-interest? You might say certain religious organizations or nonprofits are engaged in such selfless behavior, and you'd be right in a few isolated cases. But for the vast majority of organizations, including most nonprofits, their aim is to increase their own size, power, and influence. The same philosophy pervades the halls of every national capital in the world, where the claim of serving the people is usually nothing more than a deceptive sales pitch to get elected, so that real power can be wielded against those whom you claim to represent. Even the most corrupt government regimes in the world claim to represent the interests of the common people. By the way, North Korea's official name is laughably the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. Yet the power structure in North Korea isn't democratic. It doesn't represent the people. It isn't a republic, and it isn't even the Greater Korea. South Korea has more legitimate claim to Greater Korea than does the North. Similarly, the U.S. House of Representatives is also jokingly named in a way that claims to represent the interests of the people. Yet in reality, nearly all members of the House, with a few notable exceptions, are little more than legislative prostitutes for corporate interests, pharma, biotech, weapons, etc. Even the so-called Freedom Caucus of the conservative libertarian lawmakers is heavily infested by big pharma sellouts and Monsanto poison pushers who think freedom means no regulation of toxic pesticides. Very few exceptions have ever been observed in government. In truth, there is no such thing as any government composed of human beings who will voluntarily ignore their own self-interests in order to truly serve the people. No such government organization exists anywhere in the world. Even in the United States, every government agency, DHS, State Department, FDA, HHS, EPA, CDA, DEA, USDA, FTC, etc., exists primarily to expand its own power and influence, no matter what the repercussions are of the people. From time to time, there are notable individuals who stand as exceptions to this rule. Ron Paul is perhaps the best example in recent memory. Principled and immune to arm twisting, Ron Paul spent his entire career voting for the interests of the people he represented in the state of Texas. Some might argue that even Donald Trump shows promise for rejecting the corruption typically pursued by former presidents. As a highly successful businessman with vast monetary wealth, Trump has no interest in gaining money from his political power, and he's old enough to be focused on leaving behind a legacy rather than trying to climb the ladder of political power. Has big government approached a tipping point of irrelevancy? All this brings up a salient question. Is big government rapidly proving itself to be irrelevant in society that's so electronically connected that people don't need representatives in Washington, D.C. anymore to make their decisions for them? Consider these radical ideas for structural reforms of society that could eliminate much of the corruption that infests government today. Radical Reform 1. Taxpayers get to choose where their dollars go. Okay. Radical Reform number 2. Enact a lifelong ban that halts government regulators from ever working for private industry. Radical Reform number 3. The Instant Runoff Voting System, IRV. I will post the link so you can read what I'm skipping. Radical Reform number 4. Enact term limits once and for all. I like this one. Radical Reform number 5. Eliminate representatives in Washington, D.C. altogether. Yep, like that one. Okay, so that would be it. Let me read this down here. I say it's time for more self-rule. Thank goodness President Trump is taking the first steps to slashing the size of power of government, but it's not nearly enough. The real reset will only come with the next great financial collapse that will obliterate centralized power in Washington and possibly even cause the breakup of the United States of America as we know it today. When that day comes, it's up to all of us to build a new society rooted in liberty and individual freedom, rather than big government incompetence and tyranny. I like that very much. Alright, well, I do hope you all have a wonderful day, and stay warm, stay dry, and I'll talk to you later. Ciao.